So, buddy, it's been a while.
It's been a long while. Great to see you.
You too.
Yeah. I think, gosh, when we started right out of college, we were early 20s, and here we are in our mid 50s.
Yeah, we're not going to count years.
We're not definitely not counting years.
But I think you and I met when we were both wet behind the ears, fresh out of college,
Right.
thrown into the world of logistics.
Logistics. That's right. Never thought as a kid I'd be in logistics, but here I am, 55, still
you didn't
logistics.
dream about trucks?
No. Cops and firemen, right, when I was a kid, but never logistics.
So, okay, it's been 30 years.
30 years plus.
How did we get back together here?
Well, so let me back up here. I had an idea that I wanted to bring AI into the logistics space because, as you know, logistics is very labor intensive. So as I'm scaling the business peak precision solutions, I thought rather than go out and do it the traditional way, just keep hiring people, that I would do it more efficient and interject AI from the get-go rather than try to implement it down the road after I built out the company. And I was watching this seminar, and this may be a little dramatic, but I'm going to tell you what the guy said in the seminar. So he said in 5 years, this is about 6 months ago, he said in 5 years, there'll be three types of companies. Industry leaders that adopt AI, new entrants to the market that are AI, that will compete with the industry leaders that adopt AI, and then everybody else. And he said, and everybody else will be out of business shortly after. So again, maybe a little dramatic, but I thought, I better get on this, the bandwagon and introduce AI to logistics. So that led into me really digging in and saying, okay, where can I, watching a lot of videos and seminars, and you know how it is. I mean, you can hear
it's a black hole.
There's a black hole.
Yeah.
And I definitely went down. But that led into, okay, where is it really going to benefit the customer and the logistics company? Inbound logistics, very labor intensive, right? A lot of suppliers routing freight. And then it got into, okay, well, I could build a better mousetrap now managing inbound logistics, whether it's for hospitality or healthcare. And then I just pivoted and said, rather than recreate something better or the current model that's been in, we started back in 2002 in healthcare logistics, rather than, take AI and try to make that better, why don't I rethink this entirely and come up with an AI solution that allows the hospitals to do it themselves and literally cut out the 3PL, which is kind of counterintuitive, right? Because it's actually going to take business away from me on that side. But I thought it would be a great model to have. And I know you're the AI guru, so I thought I'd reach out to you and get the old band back together.
And it's awesome because, since we went our separate directions,
right.
Nothing bad. I still love you, man.
Thanks.
I went down a different direction, also in logistics, but in the logistics software world.
Right.
Had many stints as CTOs at big software companies and found myself unintentionally as an AI expert, right? So AI has been around a long time in the machine learning and data science realm, but a couple years ago, generative AI started to change the game, and I and many other of my friends realized, hey, there's a disruption coming.
Right.
So before we explain how AI can disrupt this inbound logistics thing, if I may, let's back up a little.
Please.
And talk about why did you and I have this synergy together in the first place? So, gosh, you said 2002. I wouldn't have remembered the year.
Yeah.
You and I worked at this logistics company. We were just a traditional outsourced 3PL, right? And we saw all this inbound freight. And at the time, inbound freight was controlled not by the person it was inbound to.
Right.
So if I was, say, a hospital or a restaurant or a hotel, I was buying all these goods. And whoever I was buying them from was selling me the goods, but they had to get from point A to point B, and they'd say, don't worry about it. I'll just throw the freight on the invoice. It's included.
Right.
Which sounds great until you realize that somebody's making profit on that.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So if I were to buy carpet from the carpet manufacturer and they say, I'll just throw the freight in, I would see a line that says shipping and handling on that invoice. No big deal. Until we find out that, let's say it's $1,000 for shipping and handling, the carpet manufacturer is paying $200.
Yeah.
And he's making more profit on shipping me that carpet or that bed
Right.
or that MRI machine for a hospital. He's making more profit there than he is on the goods he's selling me.
Yeah.
And so you and I, we pioneered many years ago the idea that we could disrupt that by saying, okay, Mr. Supplier, sell me the goods. I'll take care of the freight.
Right.
But it wasn't quite that easy,
No.
right? Why?
Right. Because you add a lot. I mean, the labor involved in routing inbound logistics is huge. Especially when you talk about hospitality or healthcare, but specifically healthcare, you're not talking about, big, well, there are some big shipments, but you're really talking about a lot of small packages, FedEx or UPS. So think about thousands of suppliers shipping these $25, $30 freight transactions into you. And how do you manage the data? How do you marry up that FedEx invoice for that $25 to that stent or knee or whatever you're buying from the supplier and make sure it gets allocated, properly for accounting to be able to allocate that charge to the right department in the hospital or the right general ledger code?
But let's even back up a step.
Yeah.
Why do I even care? Because if I'm a hospital that's buying all this stuff all day,
Right.
it turns out the accumulated amount of freight that I was buying from the supplier where I just didn't have to worry about it.
Right.
They just sent me an invoice.
Right.
They were overcharging 100, 200, 300%.
Yeah, in some cases 400 or 500% on what their cost was. Absolutely.
Right. So we would go to them and say, hey, hospital, we got the deal for you.
Right.
Or hey, motel, we got the deal for you. We're going to help you control the freight.
Right.
We're going to save you, 80, 90% off your freight goods. And for a decent sized organization, that's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars.
Right.
And they said, okay, but if I buy 1,000 things a month, that's 1,000 shipments that I used to pay one invoice each. Now I have to pay the invoice
Right.
for the goods and the freight.
Right.
John, Pete, I don't have staff to handle that
Right.
because I not only have to pay it, but I got to match it up in my GL system. I got to match up the POs. You know what? Not worth it.
Right. Because if you think about the typical manufacturer, they have inbound freight, right? And they've been controlling their inbound freight for years, decades, right? Or a distributor. I mean, they're really in tune with their freight costs and they're controlling their inbound freight because they are logistics experts, right? They have a traffic department. A hotel or motel or hospital, they don't have a traffic department. Maybe some of the large IDNs may have some traffic function as a whole IDN, but the average hospital out there does not want to deal with logistics. They don't want to hire for logistics, which is great because it's a perfect opportunity for us to come in and help them save money.
Right. And here's the hilarious thing that if we roll back to the early 2000s, we'd say to a for-profit company, I can save you $1 million. And they said, no, thanks.
Right.
And we're like, what?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
How is this possible?
Yeah.
And then you realize in their head, this was an insurmountable challenge.
Right.
They didn't know how to handle it. They didn't want to hire people to handle it. And so the brilliant minds that we are said, okay, not only will we help you recapture this lost savings,
Right.
we'll do the labor for you. We'll hire the people to handle the invoices, handle the matching of the POs and the GL coding and all the administrivia that comes with it.
Right.
But we're not going to do it for free.
No.
So
No.
what did the model turn out to be?
Well, the model turned out to be a very lucrative model for the 3PL with high margins, but still significantly less than what the supplier was.
But explain that. Explain that.
Right.
Because it's not clear, right? Like, okay, I save money, but I pay money.
Right. So you're really dealing with what the supplier was charging for freight. So let's say, I'll get too far in the weeds here, but we're talking a lot of smaller transactions, both UPS and FedEx.
So let's say I have 100 transactions
Right.
at $10 each, $1,000.
Right. So in that case, it would probably be more like 100 transactions at $100 each. Probably easier to do it that way.
You and your
right?
zeros.
Right. So the supplier is charging 100 to the hospital for shipping and handling, to your point, earlier, but they're really paying FedEx or UPS $20 for that ship, right? So they would go in and pay UPS or FedEx $20 and add their margin to plus X, still significantly less than the $100, which is list price. And again, this is probably too far in the weeds, but list price is if you go to FedEx, the FedEx store or the UPS store, and you say, I want to ship this to my friend in New York, they're going to charge you list price, which means 0 discount. Well, these big suppliers get 70% discount, 75% discount. So think of that $100, right? They're billing out 100 list price. They're paying 20. Let's say they get a 75, just to make the math easy. They get a 75% discount. They're paying 25 and adding a margin to the 25. Still significantly less than the $100, but there's pretty good margin for the 3PL in that model.
Right. So day one, before we came in, the hospital was buying a box of sutures for $1,000 and paying $200 for the freight.
Right.
When the freight really cost the supplier $50.
Right.
Let's say.
Right.
Okay. We came in and say, look, we can let you control the freight. You still buy the $1,000 of sutures. That doesn't change.
Right.
But now you're going to pay FedEx or UPS or whoever directly.
Right.
And you're going to pay the $20 or $50, I think I said.
Well,
but the difference is now you have to pay us, the logistics company, to do all that labor you don't want to do. So now you say, let's say you pay 100. So you pay that 3PL, that margin, but it's worth it. You still save,
of course,
$50 in this example per shipment. It adds up.
Right.
So that model, it turns out, where the 3PL comes in and says, I'm going to control your freight. I'm going to do all the work for you. You don't have to worry your pretty little head about it.
Right.
I'm going to save you all this money from the old bad old days where the supplier controlled it.
Sure.
How long has that model been intact?
Since 2002, when we started, and maybe a little before.
And until
present day.
Today.
Today. And, and the way you describe it is, a fee base where the hospital, in this case, would actually know what the 3PL made. What's a little murky is where the 3PL actually has their discounts with FedEx and UPS, and the 3PL is billing out the hospital with margin built into it. Then you don't know what they're making. Still, again, perfect model from where they were, 22 years ago, right? But it's still, there's a lot of play in there. So again, going back to my original, I just wanted to make a better mousetrap on the logistics side. But I think there's a better, and I hate using the word disrupt, but I'm going to use it anyway, a better way to really disrupt the traditional model that's been in place 22 years.
Okay, so the traditional model, just to recap, today is I'm the hospital, I'm the hotel, I'm whoever. Right. I hire a 3PL. They buy the transportation for me.
Right.
They provide all the labor so I don't have to.
Right.
And I pay them some markup. I'm not sure what it is, but it's okay because I get my savings and they just take care of everything.
Absolutely.
So at the end of the day, I'm paying them some amount of profit.
Right.
And I don't have to do any of the labor.
Exactly.
So what?
Or very little labor, but yes.
Right. So what possible cool idea would you have to make that go away?
Well, again, down my black hole, rabbit hole, whatever you would call it, of AI. And again, you're the AI expert. I'm just layman's.
Lay it on me, man. Lay it on me.
I hate saying reducing headcount because it's not the intent. I think it's being able to scale a company with less overhead on the 3PL side. But if the machine, and I'll just call it a machine for lack of a better word, if the machine can do what the people are currently doing, right? Either I take the traditional model and do it far less and charge less of a margin, or create a SaaS software that the hospital can use in a do-it-yourself scenario and let them reap the majority of the benefits. So again, not wanting to sell ourselves as a logistics company, really stepping back and saying, we're a software company. You can use FedEx, you can use UPS, you can use, ABC Courier. Probably care. It doesn't matter to us. We're carrier agnostic. We'll let you pick the carrier. We'll help you negotiate rates with them or get you decent rates through the GPO or these other entities. But really, they pay in our model, they would pay the carrier direct, FedEx or UPS, right? Pay us our software fee.
The hospital, the hotel, whoever's getting in my freight.
Right. And pay us our software fee separately. Again, the new cost of freight, right? Paying the carrier direct, plus the software fee is another step down in savings from prepaying at old model 22 years ago to 3PL. Now we got the next evolution, I guess, of inbound logistics, for lack of a better word.
All right. So bad old days.
Right.
Supplier added the freight, made a huge killing. The hospital, the hotel just got murdered. Right. That we erased that, you and I, when we were young bucks.
Right.
And that
We're still young bucks-ish.
Sure.
Right.
Some of us feel it more than others.
Right.
All right. So then the new state was let the 3PL control the freight, not the supplier.
Right.
They're going to give you a great savings,
It was great.
but they're going to make a profit, which is fair because they're taking on all the labor.
Of course.
So the newest idea, where you and I are coming in, is we're saying, look, now that margin that the 3PL is charging the customer, our customer,
Right.
we don't have to necessarily give that to them anymore because we can help the hospital, the hotel, the inbound getter of freight. We can get them their own rates that they can control 100%.
Right.
Pay no margin to anybody. Basically, if it's $100, you pay $100.
Exactly.
But now you take on the labor, which 20 years ago was the deal killer because
They were going to do it.
they're like,
No.
I don't care if I save $1 million. I don't know how to get this
Well,
done.
and I don't expect a hospital to hire a traffic department. That's not their job is patient outcome, right?
Right.
Focus on what you're good at, outsource what you're not good at. I mean, that's
Right. And that was the barrier up until
Right.
now because the hospital wasn't going to hire an army of people to make phone calls, pay bills, do all that. But what's different now is, to borrow a joke from drummers, and here's a joke for you.
Okay.
How many drummers does it take to screw in a light bulb? None, because there's a machine to do that now. Okay. So AI is our machine to do
Right.
that now.
right.
So even 3 years ago, this was not a solvable problem.
No.
To use software to handle the labor of the inbound logistics. So we could get the straight up savings from just controlling the freight ourselves.
Right.
And that world has changed, right?
Right.
And that's a little freaky to some people, right? Like, what do you mean AI is going to do it? So I'll just jump ahead as the
Yeah, please.
AI guy.
Yeah.
It's not as crazy as people think, right? We've been automating things with computers now for decades. AI is not some magical genie that pops out of the bottle.
Right.
I own an AI company. I wish it was, right? If it could solve all the problems, I guarantee you I would have solved all the problems.
Right.
It's another tool in the toolbox.
Right.
Just like cloud computing, object-oriented programming. There is a long list of innovations that people grabbed onto and says, hey, I can now do this next cool thing. AI is just the next cool thing, but it's just a tool. It just so happens this particular problem that we've been trying to solve for now 30 years, we can do with software.
Right.
So the punchline is we can go to this hospital, this hotel, anybody who's getting a lot of inbound freight and say, not only can I save you the money, which was day one from 20 years ago, that was our goal, but you were going to give up some money to handle the labor. We're going to get you all the savings and we're going to handle the labor for you with AI.
Right.
Have your cake and eat it too.
Exactly. And there's no doubt in my mind that the current 3PLs out there will adopt AI. But they're going to adopt AI to lower their own internal costs, right? Just to make them more efficient.
What?
Right.
You're saying the 3PL is not going to just pass the 100% savings on to me?
Shocker, right? So, I mean, in this case, to your point, have your cake and eat it too. We're really giving the majority of that benefit back to the customer, the end user, right?
Right.
In a do-it-yourself model.
And I think this is the game change that we're talking about.
Right.
Is you and I are not talking about solving this by starting another logistics company.
No,
We're starting a software company.
exactly.
And for the average purchaser of services at whoever our client would be, we've been talking about hospitals and hotels because they're easy examples, but it doesn't matter.
Right.
Think of how much easier it is to just buy the software.
Right.
Like you're already doing this in 100 other places. This is just the newest place. And you can 100% fund it with the savings from taking it away from the 3PL who was, for the last 20 years, giving you a good, solid, reasonable service.
That's what I did for 20 years.
But now they have a hand in your pocket that doesn't need to be there.
Right.
Right. So it's a pretty smooth transition because the difference is we can do stuff now with the machines that we just couldn't before.
Right.
And it sounds crazy, but it really isn't.
No, it really isn't. And, it's a lot of things that the 3PLs do great, right? But where the juice isn't worth the squeeze for them to throw more labor at, let's take that $25 transaction. You have a $25 transaction that comes in, it's missing a PO. You have a person picking up the phone and calling the supplier, hey, I need, PO number on tracking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, how many phone calls are you going to make or emails are you going to send the supplier on a $25 transaction? You're not.
It costs me more than $25 to pick the phone up.
Pick the phone up, right. So they'll do it because it's part of the service, but at some point they cut bait, right? I couldn't get it. I couldn't get a hold of them. They didn't answer my email. You get what you get, hospital. We got this much match. Well, if it's the machine doing it and the juice is absolutely worth the squeeze because you can have the machine, now I'm not suggesting we do this, but you can literally have the machine call every hour on the hour until somebody picks up and gives the PO number.
Right. So the 3PL, and we did this too when we were the 3PL, so this is not bad or crazy, but they're a for-profit entity.
Of course.
They need to charge you more than they're spending in the labor.
Right.
But we can do that work so much more efficiently and less expensively with the machine.
Right.
That's how we can capture all that savings for you and not only give you the same service, but to your point, because it's so much more efficient, better service.
Right.
Because the 3PL, because they're paying a real human, whatever minimum wage plus is, they have to just put a cap on it.
They have to.
Right?
We
do not have to put a cap on it.
Right.
So our percentage of completion for these tasks is naturally higher. And oh, by the way, you save all the money.
Right. And because we don't have to put a cap on it, we can get really creative on the audit. For example, when we had
first explain what you mean by the audit.
Well, the audit in auditing whether that get a PO number on it, geocode it, right? Audit for carrier.
It's for auditing that invoice from FedEx.
From FedEx, right? As well as what I'm about to say, which we never did as a 3PL because it was just too labor intensive. You would not do it. Is compare that transaction to the vendor's contract. What if you negotiated, hey, if I buy over $10,000 worth of product, freight's free. Now the supplier goes and ships on your FedEx account number, and you don't know that transaction comes through to the 3PL, and they process it. And nobody's checking that because, again, the juice is worth the squeeze. You would have to hire a team of how many people, right, to manage that. But again, going back to the point you just made, the juice is absolutely worth the squeeze if the machine's doing it. Have the machine go into the contract, look up the terms, and tell you if you should pay freight on that transaction or not, real time.
And it's a double whammy for the 3PL, right? Because one, they don't want to expend the labor for every $25 shipment to have someone go read the original contract to see, should this one have been waived? Right? They also don't have the right incentive. Because if the 3PL, let's say, found out that should have been waived, they don't get their margin on that shipment.
No, it's less revenue.
And I'm not saying we would, as 3PLs, ever do that.
Yeah. It's interesting. We've toyed around with these ideas over the last decade of how can we do this, and it just was not possible without the tool we have now with AI. I mean, it was possible, but it just was not practical. Right? We just wouldn't do it. Right? And I think now it just gives that extra layer of automation that you can just get as granular as you want to get, right?
Right. And really what we're saying, if you just distill it down, is we can give the same service that the inbound receiver of freight is getting today.
Right.
At a fraction of the cost, with less effort, and higher quality results.
Yeah.
But why would I not want to do this?
It's sold. Yeah.
Right. So, oh, okay, I'm going to throw you a softball. Just knock it out of the park. Why us? Why John and Pete? Right. People have AI software ideas all the time.
Right.
Logistics is full of smart people.
Oh,
What's different with us?
well, I think having been in, let's go back to 2002. Well, let's go back even before 2002.
I can't remember that far.
Let's go
Okay.
back. Let's go back to 1990. I started at our logistics company in 1989, and you were like 92, right?
91.
After 91. So
Yeah.
we've been doing this a long time. You know, inbound logistics, managing inbound logistics is not a new concept. It may have taken till 2002 to kind of hit healthcare as a mainstream, process, but people have been doing it for decades and decades and decades. So us having the experience of bringing best practices from other industries into healthcare in 2002, and then taking it from healthcare and really driving it to where it's at today, I think, our
So just
they're going to sound really old when I say, well, our experience, back in the day, right? But I mean, our experience of just knowing the ins and outs of exactly how this process works from the 3PL side.
so
Right.
how long have you been moving freight? I mean, literally.
Since 1989.
Right.
Yes.
And I joke with people all the time when they look at my LinkedIn and say, oh, you were in logistics a long time.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, it is the least sexy trillion-dollar industry
Right.
that there is. And people are like, $1 trillion? Like, that's
Yeah.
no joke. Everything you see around you
Has to move.
and came on a truck.
Has to.
And everyone's like, oh, well, transportation's easy. Is it now?
Is it?
Right. So those of us who've been in the game know it's actually highly complex to do it well.
Right.
So, okay. So freight's not that easy.
No.
You have just a teensy bit of experience doing it well.
Yes.
So that makes me think of the opposite, right? Well, software. How hard is software? Right?
Right.
Every 22-year-old, getting out of grad school right now is going, I'm going to start an AI company.
Of course.
How are we different? So in some ways we're not. We're smart, but we're no smarter than the average smart guy,
Right.
right? But what I've learned, for example, in my 30 years of enterprise software is creating a product is much different than writing software. What do I mean by that? Lots of us tech folks, we just love building something cool. It's my favorite thing. I love waking up and like, did you see what I did?
Right.
Nobody cares.
Right.
Nobody cares if I do something cool as a tech guy. What they care about really is, can I solve one of their problems? And can I solve a problem that's so bad for them that they're willing to give me money to solve it?
Right.
And it turns out that's not so easy, right? Because if you're going to create software at, I'll call it the enterprise level, which most of our customers are, you have to dot all the I's and cross the T's. You can't just say, look, Ma, I made an app.
Right.
Right? You have to have all the things around it that, no shade at the 22 and 23-year-olds. You guys are smarter than me. I give you creds. But what about security? What about data privacy? What about the enterprise reporting tools that your CFO needs? We get that, right? We have that out of the box, so to speak. So yes, we have the cool AI stuff. Yes, we can save you all this money, but we can also do the boring, gross, I's dotted, T's crossed stuff that you need if you're going to use enterprise software
Sure.
at a Fortune 500 size company, right? So, okay, we got the tech, we got the logistics smarts. We're both really good looking.
Obviously.
So what do you say to that person who's like, oh, I like the saving money, I like the no labor, AI scares me?
Well, what I say from layman, so I'll also talk from a non-AI guy. I think AI, I like what you said, it's another tool in the toolbox. I think a lot of people, and you can go down a lot of rabbit holes, just go Google AI and conspiracy, right? You have Terminator on this side, right? You get my point. Terminator on down to, it's just a fad and everything in between. And I think, for me, I love, again, like you said, it's just a tool in the toolbox. It is going to make us more efficient. And I like what you say when we were talking earlier that, you know, it's not going to replace your job. It's not like AI is going to come in and replace everybody's job. But what is going to replace your job is somebody that knows AI who's much more efficient at your job, right? And for companies, whether especially in logistics, where it's very labor intensive, right? To be able to scale and to be able to compete 5 years down the road and not be that third company I talked about that's out of business.
Right.
Again, probably a little dramatic, but we'll go with it. You really need to adopt these new tools and take advantage of the efficiencies.
Because if you don't, your competitor will.
Well, they will. And how do you compete? If we're two logistics companies and you have 30 people and I have 10 people doing the exact same thing, how do you compete with me?
Right. And if I'm a hospital purchasing department, it's the same thing. Right.
100%.
If we don't, someone else will.
Yeah.
And it makes me think about, so my other company is a straight up AI company. And I have conversations with very smart, seasoned executives who say, I love what you could do for me, but I'm afraid that the AI is going to get in my company and take over.
Right.
And I mean, we kind of laugh, but smart people have this fear.
Sure.
And so I think safety around how you use AI is a legitimate concern.
Agreed.
Right. And let's use hospitals as an example. Obviously, I'm pro AI. I do not want the AI to do my surgery yet.
Right.
Maybe one day. Right. But you know what I'm totally comfortable with? The AI looking up PO numbers for my freight.
Of course.
Right. But that's a huge thing. If you're an executive and you're saying, look, the trains are coming and I'm either on it or left at the station.
Right.
All right. So you're going to start implementing AI. Do you do the crazy, scary stuff that could get you in huge amounts of trouble? Or do you take those early steps doing the thing that, you know what? The worst thing that happens is I'm not as efficient as I thought, but, you know, Terminator did not come and get me. Right. I read a really cool stat from just earlier this year. I think it was Goldman Sachs. You know, I'll preface this by saying, if I'm giving a talk about AI, which I do a lot of speaking about AI to executive, and I always say, you know, raise your hand if you think everybody's doing AI. Every hand goes up. And these are like smart executives with lots of experience. Goldman Sachs did the survey of the 5,000 customers of, you know, small, middle, large companies. The actual number, 6%.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, even when I ask my customers, to your point, it's like, do you use AI? Oh, absolutely. I have ChatGPT write my emails for me.
Yeah.
That's not using AI. I mean, it is, but you get my point.
Well, your point, yeah. But, you know, I used it for my meeting notes. I'm like, and you should. That's a great use of it.
Of course.
That is not the same as leveraging the tool for your enterprise.
Exactly.
Is your company getting use of the AI, you know, checking your calendar?
Right.
This much.
Yeah.
But you need to start as good stewards of the companies we run. You have an obligation to be a good steward of that company. And that includes doing things that are going to make sure the company survives and thrives. And so when I have this conversation, folks are like, oh, well, but, you know, I'm not going to be first. The good news is you can be first and it still not be scary. Right. Because if only 6% of companies are doing it, you're going to be first compared to a lot of people. Right. So make the decision to jump into AI in ways that are safe, predictable. Go do the crazy stuff later once you're good at, let's call it the baby steps of AI. What we're doing, even though it's going to be disruptive, and we're going to make a lot of waves in the industry because we're going to be changing the way people can do stuff. It's not scary.
No.
Right.
No.
Anyway.
No, I mean, it's to your point. I used to, a mentor of mine back in the day say it's just freight.
It's just freight.
It's just freight. And I mean, but it is. I mean, if you think about it, going back to your point of being scared and wanting to dip their toes in the AI pool, what better way than something like freight, PO matching to freight bills, for a hospital executive to say, yeah, we're testing out, you know, rather than something that's, you know, going to potentially affect patient outcome or get involved in HIPAA or any of those scary things that a hospital thinks about, right?
Right.
This is free.
This is the kiddie pool
Right.
of AI, right?
Exactly.
A kiddie pool, and you get the floaties on each arm.
Yeah.
Right. There's a cool economics lesson from a zillion years ago, because the other thing folks will say to me is, I'm all for the efficiency. We have to save money. I need to be a good steward for my business, but I also need to be a good steward for my employees.
Of course.
And what you're saying scares me because I don't want to lose the people. And I'm like, okay, time out. So back in the 1800s, this is an awesome story. There was this economist named Javon. That was his last name. And he was studying locomotives. Now remember, this is the mid 1800s. Like, this was new tech.
Right.
And he was looking at how the steam engines back then used coal. And the first round of locomotives came out and they used a ton of coal to get from point A to point B. And then the next version of locomotive came out and they could go farther on the same amount of coal or the same distance on less coal. And he made a very easy prediction. Well, if this pace keeps up, the price of coal is going to plummet because nobody's going to be using coal anymore, because we're going to get more and more train traffic with less and less coal. But that's not what happened. People started using more and more and more and more and more coal. Why? Because as the locomotives got efficient, more people took trains and bought more locomotives and built more train tracks. So there's this paradox where we think, oh, AI is going to make things more efficient. I'm going to lose my people. Untrue. AI is going to make things more efficient, which means you're going to do better and more inventive and valuable things. If you do it right, you will end up hiring more people.
Right.
They just won't be doing this
mundane
toil.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. That's a good. I've never heard that about it. It's Javon. I'm gonna look that
Javon's
up.
paradox.
Javon's paradox.
Look it up.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. So, I mean, going back to why we came up with this idea. I mean, I think, again, it is going to be the next evolution. I hate using the word evolution, but I'm going to use it anyway, right? It's a
revolution.
Revolution, evolution. Yeah. Revolution of logistics. And this is not just for healthcare, although it's very relevant, in healthcare inbound logistics. I mean, it is going to revolutionize. I can't tell you how many calls I am on that are people pitching new ideas in the logistics space. And I'm sure you're on a zillion more than I am, right? Of how AI is going to make it more efficient. And it is. I mean, it truly is. So again, to your point, the train is coming. No one's going to stop it. So let's make sure we get on the train.
Right. And what I think is going to be really cool about our product is you don't have to reinvent the wheel to go from what you're doing today to doing something with us. A lot of times when you have something disruptive, the switching costs are scary, even if you get this great downstream ROI. So can you talk a little bit about, all right, so we have our new cool AI software that's going to handle all the labor to handle your inbound freight.
Right.
Okay. It's going to match up POs. It's going to contact vendors. It's going to do the GL coding for your accounting department. All that's going to be handled. We've already established that you're going to save a ton of money because you no longer have to pay a 3PL and their giant margin for the privilege. But how brutal is it for me to switch?
Oh, it's not brutal at all. If you think about it, I mean, I'm going to oversimplify it, but let's oversimplify it for this conversation. Right?
You're talking to a simple man.
Nothing is going to change from the supplier standpoint. They're still they have a FedEx number, whether they're doing it on the 3PL's FedEx number today, or the hospital's FedEx number today, or Pete's FedEx number, or John's FedEx number. They're just shipping like they normally ship in the current traditional model.
Right. So if I have 200 suppliers,
they're used to this. There's no change.
You don't even have to tell them, really.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Right. There's no change on that side, right? On the hospital side, really no change. I mean, there is a little bit of change that we'll have to teach them how to use the software. We'll take one person 30 minutes a week, if that, 15 minutes a week, really, to run the software, to run the reports. Everything's being done AI. All it's really doing is taking all the workload that the 3PL currently does and charges dearly for, and automating it and having the AI do it. Right.
Right. So
again, that's oversimplifying, but I mean, that's pretty much
but it's not really because
It's
it's
not.
simple.
Right.
So other than having to write the uncomfortable letter to your 3PL to say,
Yeah.
I love you,
But
times they've changed.
right.
Right. I'm going to take this in-house. Do I have to talk to FedEx? Do I have to talk to my suppliers? Do I what would I actually tactically do to make this happen?
Well, we would handle the implementation. So whether, again, going back to my original point of where are they going to get the rates? Because right now they're tacking onto the 3PL's rates.
Right. So that's an important thing
Yeah.
is now the hospital is ceded control of the freight
Right.
or the hotel or whoever to the 3PL. The 3PL owns that relationship with the
Of
carrier,
course.
which is probably not healthy.
Yep.
Okay.
Right.
So that's one switch.
Right.
How does that happen?
So there's different ways to attack that, I guess, for lack of a better word. Obviously the GPOs all have aggressive rates with the.
So these are the group purchasing
group
organizations.
have aggressive rates. So that may be one option. A second option is for the nonprofit hospitals. They can tap into these nonprofit state rates, that are offered to them.
So you're saying FedEx has
and
like
UPS.
nonprofit
Yeah,
prices that they can just use?
Very aggressive nonprofit prices.
Okay.
So that's one avenue. Or if you're a larger IDN, let's say with 25 different locations, and you have a big FedEx or UPS spend, you can negotiate your own contract, and we can help you on that end too, where you literally have your contract directly with FedEx, and you're not relying on the state rates or the GPO. And what that does too, but let me finish.
Yeah.
This is important because when they have the rates owned by themselves, then they can leverage all their other FedEx and UPS rates. For example, if they're sending a bunch of stuff outbound and they have a FedEx rate that they utilize right now or UPS, right? They can drive all that volume to their contract, which makes their contract bigger, which allows them to negotiate better rates with either UPS or FedEx. And it just kind of feeds itself, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Right. And you know what I never heard you say? That Pete and John's company controls the freight.
Yeah, we do not.
So this is kind of, it's may not be obvious to people that for the first time ever, the receiver of the freight, whether it's the hospital, the hotel, whoever, they're for the first time in control of their own pricing.
Right.
Because we're not a 3PL. We're a software company.
We're a software company.
Right. So for the first time in maybe, can I say recorded history? Is that maybe a little too dramatic?
A little dramatic, but I'm
going to say recorded history.
Say
These inbound recipients of freight are going to be in control of their own price destiny for the first time.
Right.
And I think it's a fair truth in business and economics that if you're not in control of something, you do not have the advantage. They will for the first time ever. And that's just negotiating power, right? But there's these side effects too, because if I control something, not only do I control the price, but I control the data.
Right.
And I don't want to get all conspiracy theory-ish, really. I am the AI guy, so that's kind of natural.
Right.
But if someone else, say my favorite 3PL, is seeing every single piece of data about every single shipment that I get, is that safe for me? Maybe.
Right.
Would maybe someone not so scrupulous use that data for their advantage instead of mine?
Potentially.
I don't know.
Right.
Right? So it's kind of, it's subtle, but I'm a data guy.
Right.
You may have noticed there's some companies out there, one of them rhymes with Oogle, that has built a hundreds of billions of dollar business buying and selling other people's data.
Right.
In case you're wondering if it's got value. So if I'm the hospital, that's a huge side benefit. Let's call it icing on the cake.
Mm-hmm.
Is that not only will they control their own pricing destiny, which means negotiating power, they're going to control their own data.
Right.
And that's huge.
That is huge. That is huge.
So besides saving all the money, not having to do the work and getting control back, what more could I possibly want?
Nothing.
Right.
Right. Nothing. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's again, I'm biased because this was our idea, and, so I think it's a great idea. It's phenomenal. I absolutely think it's going to change the way people look at inbound logistics.
Right. Because you're going to save the money, get the control,
Right.
and the switching costs
Yeah.
are ridiculously low compared to a lot of things. Like think of, I'm going to switch my ERP or my big accounting system, years of implementation.
Right.
What do you think an average implementation for us to switch off of the 3PL based pricing to the software based pricing?
A couple weeks.
Yeah. Let's let that sink in for a second.
Yeah. Right.
In my, I've bought tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars of software for the companies I've worked for.
Right.
The words "will have you implemented in a couple weeks" rarely crosses that divide.
If ever.
No.
Yeah.
No. So this is absolutely path to wow, right? So if I'm that executive at, let's say, the hospital, I can save a ton of money, get into the AI game, give this great advantage to the organization I work for,
Right.
and I can do it fast.
Fast.
I would like to sign right now.
Done. Sold.
Well, awesome. Well, what did we forget?
I think we covered it all. I think we did.
All right. Well, it's great to have the band back together, John Hudson.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks, man.